If the U.S. Army Special Forces Command had an official guitar, this would probably be it. But then again, if they did have an official guitar, I probably couldn't tell you about it anyway. I'm Thom Tran, and this is the show where I go in-depth into my guitar collection and that of my friends to give you all the nerdy gear goodness like specs and pricing, but also the story, both historic and personal, about these rare and special instruments and how they got into our hands. This is the story behind the strings. This is a very special episode, not in a after school we need to talk about Bobby kind of special, but special in a lot of ways. And I'm releasing it for Veterans Day 2023 in honor of my fellow U.S. military veterans. This is my Dean Thoroughbred Operator electric guitar. It's one of two limited edition guitars released in 2014 in partnership with the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which is a charity that raises college scholarship money for the children and families of U.S. Special Operations personnel killed in the line of duty. As always, I want to start by thanking everyone who subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, please take a second to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Click on the bell icon to be notified when I drop a new episode, and share it with anyone that you think would enjoy these videos. It's free and it totally helps the channel. And like we usually do, let's start with the specs on this shredder. Based on the Thoroughbred series of guitars by Dean, the Operator is covered in an urban camouflage pattern officially called the Operator Graphic Satin, and it includes the distinctive unit insignia of the United States Army Special Forces Command on the lower body. The name Operator is also a reference to what U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers are typically referred to as Special Forces Operators. The headstock also includes a graphic that honors the members of Task Force Dagger, a joint special operations team including ODAs or Operational Detachment Alphas from the U.S. Army's 5th Special Forces Group, what's commonly referred to as Special Forces A-Teams. Not the show and not the movie. The task force also included members of the Army's 160th SOAR, the Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and U.S. Air Force combat controllers. These guitars are made in Korea. It's got a set neck and the body is made of mahogany with a maple top and features a single cutaway modern LP type shape. It's got a single ply white binding on the body and headstock. The neck is also made of mahogany with an ebony fretboard and has a radius of 12 inches. It's got pearl block inlays, 22 frets, a C-shaped neck, and a 24 3/4 inch scale. It's got a plastic nut at a 1 11/16 inch nut width and Grover tuners. The pickups are active EMGs with an EMG 81 in the bridge and an EMG 85 in the neck. It's got black hardware and a tune-o-matic bridge and black speed knobs, and weighs in at a hefty 9 pounds. And finally, it comes with this Dean hardshell case in a faux snakeskin leather, which is pretty dope. Now, this very specific model was released in 2014 and discontinued a year later in 2015. It was advertised that only 16 were made of the electric guitar and 16 were built of the acoustic model based on Dean's exhibition series acoustic guitars. That guitar will get its own episode in the future because, of course, I own that one too. And quite frankly, I'm offended that you thought for a moment that I didn't. And because of how few were made, these are extremely rare. In 2014, the Operator model sold for $899 US. And if you bought it from Dean, part of the price went to support the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. More on them in a second. Now, I've only seen 2 of these for sale ever on the third-party market, and both sold for about $1,000 or just a little over, which makes sense. Despite the rarity of the instrument, it's not a 57 Strat or a 59 Les Paul. It's a good, solid workhorse of a rocker that was made in Korea, so its value comes from what it symbolizes. But I think I've seen versions of this guitar that were made with the same urban camo paint job, but it didn't have the Special Forces DUI or the Task Force Dagger markings. Side note, as a former U.S. Army NCO who had to initiate many UCMJ proceedings for lower enlisted because of drinking and driving, DUI is a terrible acronym. It's up there with man pads and ass ram. Those are real. Look them up. And if you've ever seen one of these without the soft markings on them, let me know where you saw it in the comments below. Now, to tell you the story of this guitar, I need to tell you about the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. This 5-star rated charity was born from the tragedy of Operation Eagle Claw, the April 1980 Special Operations mission to rescue 53 U.S. hostages held in Iran. The mission sadly resulted in the deaths of 8 Special Operations forces. On that day, a battlefield promise was made to the 17 surviving children of those SOWF members that their families' sacrifices would not be forgotten. And today, the Special Operations Warrior Foundation continues to provide college scholarships and grants to the children and families of U.S. Special Operations Forces who were killed or incapacitated in the line of duty. To this day, thousands of surviving family members of the over 1,300 U.S. SOWF fatalities have been provided for or given college grants through the Foundation's work. In 2014, Dean Guitars, which is located in Tampa, Florida, where both the Special Operations Warrior Foundation and the U.S. Special Operations Command are both headquartered, partnered with the charity to create the operator-painted Thoroughbred guitar and its twin, the acoustic exhibition guitar. With the sale of each of those 32 instruments, 16 electric, 16 acoustic, part of the sales went to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. In 2010, I created a stand-up comedy group called the GIs of Comedy. We're professional stand-up comedians who all served honorably in different branches of the U.S. military. Many of us in combat, and some of us still serving. In 2012, that group partnered with the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. And I chose that charity because I spent my entire career within the U.S. Army's Special Operations community. And on December 19th, 2003, near the end of our combat deployment in Iraq, my friend, roommate, and soldier, Specialist Charles Edward Bush, was killed by an improvised explosive device while on a mission. He left his family without a father and a husband. So the mission of the Special Operations Warrior Foundation is intensely personal to me. And since then, a substantial portion of our merchandise sales from the GIs of Comedy tours go directly to the foundation. In the over dozen years since our partnership, we've been able to donate nearly $50,000 to the charity to continue helping the children of fallen SOWF personnel. So when Dean Guitars partnered with the Special Operations Warrior Foundation a few years ago to create this guitar, it was a no-brainer for me. All at once, my life as a stand-up comedian, a soldier, and a musician all came together in this beautiful Venn diagram called the operator guitar. And I had to buy it. And the acoustic model too. So if the day ever comes when I have to sell my collection, this is one of the instruments that I'll be keeping. Like I said earlier, this is a very, very special episode for many, many reasons. That's it. That's the story behind the strings of my limited edition Dean Thoroughbred operator guitar, made for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This one was made with love and respect for my fellow veterans and service members for this week before Veterans Day. Now, if you're one of the other 15 people who own this guitar, or if you've ever seen one, let me know in the comments below. Now, normally at this point, I would ask you to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icons, or go to my Patreon page to support the show. And if you want to, great, cool, totally do that. But for this episode, if you can, and only if you're able, please consider making a donation to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation by going to specialops.org. You can make the donation in the name of a veteran you know who was lost in the line of duty, or if you want, you can make it in the name of my soldier, Specialist Charles E. Bush, U.S. Army. You can also follow them on Instagram at SOWF Warrior Fund. That's SOFWARRIORFND. The links to everything will be in the show notes. Thanks again for watching, and let the strings tell your story.